Gobble, gobble. Welcome to Divinely Uninspired podcast episode number 31. We are celebrating Thanksgiving this week, and we are excited. We're here with Jeremy, as always.
Hello, everyone.
Jeremy, what are you most excited about for Thanksgiving Day?
I go for a run. I like doing the turkey trot stuff. So I know it sounds weird to most people, but it's just like I like doing it every year. It's just a fun thing. So I go for a turkey run.
The first year that I was married to my wife, the day after Thanksgiving, you know, when you're supposed to sit around and eat turkey sandwiches and stuff like that, her family got up at 7 a.m. They're like, let's go to the gym. And I was new into their family, and I was like, I don't go to the gym. I don't like to go.
No, I like doing the turkey runs. It's fun. Yeah.
Penny, welcome. We're glad you're here.
Thanks.
What are you most excited about with Thanksgiving?
I am excited because my husband's home.
Yay! It's been a long year.
Over a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your service as well as his.
I appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah. And Kyle with us once again.
Hello.
Kyle, are you excited about Thanksgiving?
I am. I get to go back to Kansas City. I get to see my uncles and cousins and grandparents, and I haven't seen some of that side of the family for almost 5 years, I think. So I'm very excited.
That's exciting. Well, I am so pumped that we are together. We got lots of fun stuff to talk about. We're going to play a little game here in just a second. But first things first, here's the song. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. You're listening to Divinely Uninspired, podcast by Journey Church Shepherdsville, hosted by Jeremy Willis and me, Rusty Wilson. You can find us online at journeyshepherdsville.com. For questions or comments, email podcast@journeyshepherdsville.com. Maybe we'll feature your question or comment on a future episode. Thanks for listening. Enjoy the show. So we are going to play a Thanksgiving trivia game.
Yes.
Which I love trivia. I don't know about you all, but I love trivia games. And I realized how little I actually know about Thanksgiving. So I thought, well, let's test our knowledge. So we are going to play the Thanksgiving trivia game show. Welcome, everybody, to the Thanksgiving Day game show of trivia of Thanksgiving and turkeys and things like that. We got our contestants here today. We're with Jeremy. And Jeremy, welcome. You're here. Glad you're here. And Kyle and Penny. Okay, that's enough. But so here's what we're going to do. We're just going to go through like 7 to 10 questions or until we get tired of playing. And we are going to answer some very difficult Thanksgiving Day trivia questions. No cheating.
All right.
Get off your phone, Jeremy.
So honestly, I have not even looked at the agenda, so I don't have a Jeremy thing. So I was just looking up the article that I'm supposed to talk about. So
Awesome.
I'm not cheating. So
Preparation.
yeah, it's been a long week.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so here we go. We're going to start with a fairly easy one. Okay. So here we go. We're going to put our thinking music on like we're wanting to be a millionaire, right?
I wish.
Who was the president that made Thanksgiving a permanent national holiday?
Ooh, I know this one.
Do you really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Are we supposed to say
Do I
it
just
right now?
answer? It's
Yeah, go ahead.
Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah,
Very
Lincoln.
good. Abraham
I did not know
Lincoln.
It was a lady.
I should know this.
that
Some of these
wanted,
standards
that
are
was a
like
story.
fifth grade
Well, you would
Great story
think.
social
behind
study
it.
standards.
You would think.
Shut
All
up.
right. Very good. That was a fairly
That was
easy
the
one.
easy one.
Yeah. Okay. This is another easy one. We'll do this one. Which Native American friend to the settlers acted as an interpreter? Which
Acted, or was it?
well was the interpreter? That's their wording, not mine. Which Native American friend to the settlers acted as an interpreter? Do you know?
Pocahontas? I don't know.
Sacagawea.
Sacagawea, yeah. Wasn't it Sacagawea? No.
No.
Ah.
The correct answer is Squanto.
Oh,
That's not an easy one. Nobody remembers Squanto.
I remember Squanto.
It sounds like the Lone Ranger's cat sidekick. What was his name?
That's Tonto.
Yeah, Squanto.
What did he call the Lone Ranger? Kimosabe.
Kimosabe.
Yeah, I always like that. All right, let's
We should do a Lone Ranger.
a Lone Ranger
Trivia,
episode.
yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably do better at that. All right, Black Friday is the biggest day of the year for what trade profession? Okay, so think about this very clearly. Black
I
Friday
know
is
this
the
one.
biggest day of the year for what trade profession?
Trade profession. I don't know. You say
Plumbing.
You know?
You got it. It is plumbing. Very
people-
good.
Why
Because
do you
people
know
stop
that?
up
That
their
is
Uncle's a
toilets.
plumber.
random.
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh.
Because of what?
My uncle's a plumber.
Okay.
A lot of
So he
people
works a
clogging
lot?
toilets.
Yeah.
It's weird.
I-
That's a really weird thing.
Yeah.
It is.
Families in town.
Yeah,
You know.
okay, that makes sense because a lot of people using a toilet that normally
Yeah.
wouldn't use a toilet. People
And-
using too much toilet paper.
Using a
Got
lot
it.
more, food intake, and you're
Yeah.
gotta get it out somehow.
Okay.
All right. Very
Do
good.
they work on Black Friday?
Uh,
I would guess they have to.
I would
Oh,
assume
guess.
so.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll ask him tomorrow or Thursday.
All right. Let's go with this question. How long was the first Thanksgiving celebration? How long?
3 days.
Oh, nice. You knew that right off the top of your
It's
head.
because it wasn't really Thanksgiving.
What was it?
What do you mean?
They were celebrating like a
harvest.
corn harvest.
Yeah, I knew that, but I
Yeah.
didn't know it
Okay.
lasted 3 days.
Yeah.
I just knew they planted fish in the ground with the corn. That's all I know.
Yeah, I knew it was a corn harvest, but I didn't know it lasted 3 days. So like it lasted 3 full days.
hmm
So it was like a rager. Like it was
They went
wild.
on. They went on a
binge.
a turkey bender.
Yeah.
But
Turkey bender.
I'm not sure that they ate turkey that day. I
They
don't know.
didn't.
I don't know. Speaking of turkeys, which turkeys gobble?
Gobblers. I don't know. Tom turkeys. Tom, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
very good.
Tom,
Male
yeah.
turkeys. Male turkeys
Yeah.
are the gobblers.
I knew that.
Yeah. We were in not the Dominican. We were in Guatemala, and we were in this one house, and there was a male turkey, a tom turkey, walking around. He was not pleased with us.
Is that the one that
Oh.
chased? Was that a Tom turkey that chased us?
Yes.
In Guatemala.
Yes, he
Yeah.
did not like
He
us.
did not
at
like
all,
us at all.
but we like him. All right, let's do 2 more questions.
All right, this is riveting.
This is, I know people at home are punching their phones, throwing them out the window. Which president first pardoned a Thanksgiving turkey? Which president first pardoned a Thanksgiving turkey?
I'm gonna
Will-
say something really
William
weird.
Taft.
I was gonna say
I
Taft.
was gonna say Grover Cleveland.
I say Taft.
I
'cause
say
that just sounded
Taft.
like a good name.
No, you're all wrong. It was JFK.
Mm.
JFK
Oh.
was the first one to pardon.
Wasn't Taft the one
turkey.
that got stuck in a bathtub?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I thought. Maybe
Well, how did he get
That
stuck in a
has-
bathtub? Was he that? Oh, he was a big guy.
big
Yeah.
guy.
All right. Well, okay. Oh, Jeremy, this one's for you.
All right.
When was the first turkey trot? What year was the first turkey trot?
Oh, I wasn't alive. I know that. So we'll say
None of us were alive.
let's say 19.
Nope,
52.
Nope, go back further.
Wow,
What?
not even the 19s. 1875.
A little too far. 1896.
There's a lot of years that I can guess right.
Yeah,
1896.
it was. You were close.
How far was it?
It doesn't say.
Oh.
But do you know where the first turkey trot was? I'll
New
give
York
you
City.
I say
Oh,
no. I say
you-
Philadelphia.
Buffalo, New
Oh, okay,
York.
Buffalo, New
so
York.
I'll give it to you because you said New York.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we won't do any more of that game.
But that is fun to find all that out.
I love trivia. I
I
really
do.
I love going to pub trivias or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, hey, so Jeremy, you're a big meat eater. You're a carnivore,
Yep.
and I don't know. Do you guys have thoughts, Penny, Kyle, on meat? I mean, are you fans of meat?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
S- s-
I mean,
partic-
it's not like part of who I am. I guess.
I mean, my take on it's always been you have canines. And so, like, either God or whatever you believe how we got there, like, something wanted you to eat meat along the way. Because we have canines just like animals that eat meat do. So,
That's
we're supposed to eat meat.
it's a good. They're good for shredding and tearing.
No,
Right?
if you're a vegetarian, I respect your opinions.
I wish I could be, honestly.
A vegetarian?
No,
Yeah.
doesn't taste as good.
See,
See, the problem I have with
Have
vegetarian.
you ever smelled a
No.
vegetarian? They stink.
The problem I have with vegetarians is I understand from like the moral side of it, like if you don't like killing animals, but people just want to be vegetarians. I'm like, then why do you try to make everything taste like meat? Have you ever noticed that? Like, if you go into the vegetarian aisle of a grocery store, it's like, this is not meat, but it tastes like meat. This is not chicken, but it tastes like chicken. This is so. If you like it that much, just eat it.
So
Yeah.
my issue is when
Bacon-flavored
vegetarians were
arugula.
like, yeah, I'm a vegetarian, and then go and eat like macaroni and cheese. And I'm like, I don't think that's the point.
Have you ever had vegan cheese? It is
no bueno.
awful. It is. It
Sounds
is
nasty.
one of the worst things I've ever ate in my life. I gave it a shot, and it was like, no.
The worst thing ever is when you are friends with those people and then they're like, hey, why don't you come over for dinner? And you're like, okay. And they cook you their food and it is not good, but you have to be polite and eat it.
I don't know if I've told y'all this story. I think I did. I had a kid in my youth group a long time ago that wanted to be a vegetarian for a year, and it wasn't immoral. He wanted to get healthy, so he stopped eating meat for a year. but he just ate cheese pizza and French
yeah.
fries,
There
and
you
I
go.
was
That'll
like,
do it.
well, that's not going to make you healthy. That's actually probably worse than what I'm eating.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. Well, what do you guys think about lab grown meat? Like, are you down with lab grown meat? This is not like the Impossible meat where it's
Vegetables.
yeah. This is lab grown meat. So meat cells being cultured in a laboratory and then put on your grocery shelves for
Hard
consumption.
pass.
I'm not against it because I do like, I mean, I'm a meat eater, but I also love animals, and so like my grandpa had a farm, and when they would slaughter pigs and the cows especially, like it's a pretty gruesome thing, like it's not like, so as much as I love to eat those animals, like being a part of that process, and I've helped friends. I don't hunt, but I've helped friends like process deer and stuff like that after they kill them, and there's a part of you that's like, okay, this is pretty harsh, but no, I don't know. I would eat lab grown meat, sure.
Lab grown brisket.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh,
If it's
okay.
cooked right, you don't have to tell. But they don't
Yeah,
have to
just
tell
don't
us.
tell me.
Just don't tell
That's
us.
the way I
I'm
feel.
confused how it's grown. Like,
Don't
how does
ask.
it actually, does it turn into
Cells, just
like
cells
a
that.
steak? Here's a steak.
Yeah, it's they are like skin cells or the muscle cells or fat cells or whatever,
Yeah.
and then they are cultured, whatever that means,
Yeah.
and they grow in a laboratory setting. Did that explain it to you?
I mean,
So
we've
it's
been
not
technical.
alive.
We've been
even though it
lab,
has cells.
yeah. But I mean, that's the thing is like we've been lab growing animals for a while now, and
Right.
so it's like this is just not a living animal. It's just the tissue, and so you don't have to kill something to get the meat. And so like, I mean, it's obviously really really weird sounding, but like if it's meat and it tastes good, yeah.
I mean, how can you grow something if it's not alive?
Well,
Like,
it
I
is
don't know.
alive. They're using cells, and they're
Then
using.
Yeah, the
That's
cells are
besides the
alive, but
point,
they're
right?
not. They're not. No, because
But the cells aren't like alive, like they have feelings and emotions and brain.
they're not conscious.
They're not conscious.
It's like a plant.
So
Maybe.
zombie-like.
I don't know.
Sorry. It's
Yes.
weird.
Yeah, I mean a
Zombie
little
meat.
zombie-like, but zombies are once a lot. Well, I guess I don't know.
They're undead.
You're complicating this, but I would
Yeah.
eat it
Okay.
if it tastes good.
Yeah, if it tastes good and the texture's not weird or whatever, if it's just like indistinguishable from a natural born steak, I don't know what to call it. I don't really care at all. But the good news is, if this is something that you're into, we are one step closer to it being commercially available via the FDA. So this company called Memphis Meats, they're kind of the ones behind the whole thing. They have been pushing forward, and they have finally gotten through the first layer of red tape to sell their lab-grown meat.
I feel like it's gonna be way more expensive than normal.
That's what I was gonna say. I think it'd be more
Probably.
reasonable.
Well, I think it will at first, but if it becomes like a common practice, then it'll eventually just become,
But if
because
you
they
wanna make a splash.
But they
wouldn't you wanna
talk
be
about
cheap?
like, they talk about like all the time, and I'm not like, I don't understand all this, but like they talk about how like even like hamburger meat, like how it's so bad for the environment,
Mhm.
not because of the meat itself, but because of what it takes to process that.
'Cause of
to
all
get
the cow
cows.
farts.
Yeah, the cow farts and the water that they have to use and all that stuff, and the ammonia they have to use and all that. So like, it's bad for the environment. So it's like, okay, well, if you can do this without having to have as many cows, then sure.
And I really do like animals. And when it's one thing when it's like, oh, it's a fish. A fish is, barely a conscious being. I don't know. But like when you look at a pig and they're like, oh, that pig's as smart as a 4-year-old. And like, well, I
Yeah.
have a 4-year-old at home and she's pretty smart. So like, that's the thing that I have to be okay with killing. I'm not opposed to it being killed and consumed. I don't want to do the killing, like Jeremy said.
I mean, I did the killing, but
I do not.
I don't.
It was just a gruesome process.
And
Yeah.
in calves, like, I mean, veal is delicious, but when you see a little baby cow, they're just so daggone cute. I don't want to eat it.
Well, you do, because you
I
just said it
do.
was delicious.
It is delicious. It's so good.
like,
This is a moral dilemma.
it really is. I think that becomes the moral dilemma, is because it is, it's an animal, it's a living thing. So that's why I think, like, if they can grow meat in a lab and the animal doesn't have to die, you don't have to have because so many animals are raised just to be killed. I mean, they're raised for us to eat them, which causes environmental issues, they say, but I mean, sure, like, let's give it a shot and see what happens. I don't think it's going to catch on, to be honest with you, but we'll see what happens.
I don't think so either. It's kind of like the Impossible meat. They're like, it tastes just like regular meat. And it's like, no. it
No, I
doesn't.
think
No,
what's
it
going to
doesn't.
happen is there's going to be some, hoity-toity restaurant that now is serving lab meat, and they're going to charge you 3 times what it costs because you don't have to have the, the moral issue of you killed an animal to eat that, and it's gonna take off in a small like market, but it's not. I don't know. I don't see it taking over.
Yeah.
And what's the cost there? I mean, what's the cost to do this?
It doesn't say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine that it's a lot of overhead.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like my meat cheap, I guess. So I guess lab grown meat is not looking good, folks. All
Yeah.
right, let's keep going.
But I would eat it. That was
Yeah.
the question. Would you eat it? Yeah.
Yeah, I would eat it. I would eat it.
I would give it a shot.
Penny's a no. Kyle's a sure. Why
I
not?
Just
don't
don't tell
care.
me. Just don't tell me.
Just become a pescatarian.
I mean, there's so many things we put in our body that's from a lab. So, I mean,
It's true.
medication, soda, candy, all starts in the science lab somewhere. So, might as well just see what meat's like too.
All right. Well,
Riveting stuff today.
yeah.
which
well,
is really.
this is so. You know what? I actually think people are going to enjoy the podcast. Maybe the most enjoyed podcast we've ever done. So, we hear a lot about religion is falling apart in the United States, and that fewer people are going to church or identifying as spiritual or religious or whatever. But this study just came out, and it's being reported on by religionnews.com, which I really like religionnews.com because they cover all religions. It's a decade-long study about growth and patterns of growth within religion in America. And they found, not surprisingly, that the churches or religions that grew the fastest grew from immigrant populations coming to the United States. And it's one of those things that that it's really interesting to me because so many people, they have a problem with people coming to our country and immigrating here. But what's fascinating is that they actually help the longevity of the religious bodies they participate in. So I'm going to read you a couple of quick facts here. There are 356,739 religious congregations across the nation. Okay, so they put this really cool map together that you can like zoom in on each county, and they show you, well, this county is mostly made up of Southern Baptists or non-denominational or whatever. And so there's 161 million adherents to religion as in terms of they attend a congregation. Okay, so America's roughly 350 million people, something like that. 161 million of them are religious adherents, and this is not surprising. But what do you all think was the largest religious body in the United States? What do you think?
In the United States,
Yeah.
I would say either Catholics or Baptist.
Yeah.
I
Probably.
looked at the map.
I know it
so-
too.
you
So
I didn't look at it.
It's a really great map.
Yeah, it's the Catholic Church
Okay.
is the largest with 61 million adherents, more than 19,000 churches, which means it's almost 19% of the U.S. population. Interestingly, they grew by 2 million people between 2010 and the end of this study, but almost all of that was from Spanish-speaking immigrants.
Yeah.
People immigrating here from other
Makes
countries.
sense.
And then just some other quick hitting facts here. Southern Baptists have the most churches of any religious group at 51,379. That is a lot of churches.
Mm-hmm.
There are 44,319 non-denominational churches. That's 9,000 more than there were 10 years ago, with about 9 million people that go to those churches. So non-denominational, about 9 million people. And we only account for because we're a non-denominational church. We only account for 13% of the total number of religious adherents in the United States. And Southern Baptists and United Methodists both lost 2 million members in that 10-year period. So there is a lot to unpack with all of that. So, Jeremy, what are your thoughts about this?
I find it interesting that the Catholic Church is growing. Although I think that this is going to be really offensive, so I'll just say it and pretend like I didn't. I do know a lot of the Catholics that I know particularly. It's kind of become a thing like you're from a Catholic family, so you're just Catholic. Like it's not really even a choice at that point.
Like an
it's
ethnicity.
It is. It's almost become like an ethnicity. No, that's not everybody. I understand that, but a lot of the ones that I know that have either, I don't want to say deconverted, but have stepped away from the Catholic Church or whatever. I mean, they'll tell you, I mean, we just grew up Catholic, like that's what you did. And so, that could be one side of it. I know the Southern Baptists, there was an article came out about how much they're in a decline. I don't know if I know they're still putting up a lot of churches and stuff like that, but it makes sense that the immigrants. I mean, if you go to places like we've been, I mean, everybody there seems to be religious to some degree. A lot of it's Catholicism because of the Spanish immigrants and all that stuff, and basically force them to be Catholic or we'll kill you. So that wasn't really helpful, but that's what they did. And so I think that makes sense. I also think that I've seen that, and this is a problem I think we have as a culture in America is most Americans. Well, I think we saw that last week, 52% or something still consider themselves religious. If everything's going well for you, you don't really need God sometimes, I think, is some people's perspective. And I think immigrants, a lot of them probably have a hard life and they realize their need for God to provide for them, to give them comfort, to do all these things. And so I think that that's why you might see a lot of that too, is that they're still in that place where they still feel like there's a dependency on God to meet their needs, which we believe. I mean, there is a dependency on God, but when everything's going well, sometimes it's easy to forget that. And so I think there's a lot of correlation there with all that. So my initial thoughts.
Yeah. What about you guys? Penny, Kyle, any thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. So if you look at the map, I know you all don't have access to it, but there's a large section, mostly the border of the United States is like Catholics, and then there's a large section of Southern Baptists, like in a particular area. And that does not surprise me because Southern Baptist, we spent a lot of time mission work, in particular like countries, and also allowing side churches within the church. Like, I don't know if anybody else grew up in a Baptist church like I did, but we always had another group of people with us at that church. Like we either had, it was Cambodia or some sort of Asian country within our church at that time. So them growing doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me that it has a large amount of immigrants within that particular church. So, yeah.
Yeah,
Kyle, any thoughts?
I think it ultimately continues to show God's heart for the nations as well, that he always has, is he's always working among the nations and does it in whatever way he can, in whatever way is accessible for people as well. And I think that's pretty cool.
It's very church-like to say, very pastor-like. It's
Yeah.
well said.
Well,
I
he
do
is a
think it's
student pastor.
interesting. I think that, when I think about Catholicism and Southern Baptists, like, those are probably the two main, I would say, groups of people historically in the United States. And so with the non-denominational, I think it's interesting that they're up to 13% because I actually imagine that would be lower. Because non-denominational is a relatively new concept. I know it's a fast-growing concept, and I don't want to say this is across the board because again, you can't speak in generalities like this. But in Catholicism, and I think sometimes in Southern Baptist, it almost comes more about the brand and the name than it does actually the kingdom. And I know that's not true for everything, but I think that's why the Southern Baptists want to make sure they're constantly planning new Southern Baptist churches is to keep growing the Southern Baptist thing, which I understand because it's part of the kingdom of God. But I think the same thing with Catholics, but I think the non-denominational thing, it's like, it's just us. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, we don't have anybody we're accountable to as far as like a bigger, body. It's just, no, we're part of the kingdom of God. So, but I do think that that's, that probably makes sense that they're, the largest as far as numbers and then also the largest as far as campuses or churches. So they seem to be very brand focused, those two particular things. And so,
Yeah. Well, and what they've found is that oftentimes the adherents who are part of churches that are most, I guess we'll say orthodox, which, do what you want with that word, tend to be immigrant families. They are more faithful attenders. They're more orthodox in their beliefs, and that's kind of a different conversation. But it's interesting that that can make up a big portion of a church community, and it can kind of change the landscape in a good way. I'm very pro immigrant. So it's one of those things that I like to see.
Well, I think it
that
also
it's
makes
good.
sense when you've been to and I don't mean to, but like when we've been to third world countries, every city we go into, what's in the center of the city? It's a church.
Right.
The cities were built around the churches. And I know that kind of happens some here in the United States, but not as much. Like we didn't build the cities around a church. Like, yeah, there's a city, so let's put a church in it. But I mean, that like the center point of most of those cities is the Catholic Church,
Right.
and so that it kind of makes sense that as they're immigrating here, that they're bringing with them their traditions and backgrounds, which is a very religious society and culture.
Yeah.
So
Very good. All right, let's move on to something that's super important. Is Twitter imploding?
Oh goodness.
Because Jeremy, you talked about this on Sunday, and you were talking about how you were in crisis because there was all this talk about, oh, it's going dark in like a week or less, and it's still up and running currently. It's not loading as quickly as it used to, but is Elon Musk the Antichrist? That's my question. Is
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't. Well, I mean, it's okay. It's also what is the Antichrist? So, like, we
Elon
know,
Musk.
yeah, it's
Elon Musk.
anything in
He's not
place of
Russian.
it's anything in place of Christ. So, yeah, I mean, technically, he could be in place of Christ to some people, but I don't know. I mean, Twitter. I'm a big Twitter guy, and to be honest with you, Twitter has not changed for me in the last week. But it's also because of who I follow. Like, I don't follow these extreme things, and like, if you post too much, then I block you, and I just same thing with Facebook, I guess. But I mean, Twitter to me has not changed, so I don't know why everybody's losing their minds over it. At least for me, my experience has still been the same.
Well, I've noticed that, and maybe I just check it too much, but I've noticed that there have been several people, and this is where we're going to next, that I followed that have since left Twitter. They're like, peace out. I'm going to go over to Mastodon, which I don't know what that is, but they talk about it, and I've heard Hive. And I just don't think there's going to be anything quite like Twitter to replace Twitter if it does implode. Are you all Twitterers?
No.
No.
Yeah, it's the main one I use, but I don't use it for anything other than sports.
Yeah, I mean, I use mine for sports, news, comedians. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that I like to follow comedians because they all have little funny, like little things. I do it for sports. When Kentucky's losing, Twitter's my favorite place because we're all in misery together and everybody's tweeting about it. I do use it for news because I found it's actually usually one of the fastest news sources as far as if something's happening, you get on Twitter and you have to fact check the sources, but I mean they're usually pretty quick on Twitter because there are people tweeting things that are there as it's happening, and
Yeah.
so that's what I use Twitter for. So now some of these other things that people are using Twitter for, maybe that's probably why they might be leaving or something. I don't know.
Tell me what the issue is. Like, what is the issue?
I'm not experiencing an issue because I consistently use Twitter the same way. Does that make sense?
So
I don't know.
The issue at the heart of it was that Twitter went through this phase early on that it was not a safe place for it. They had no protections on language or anything like that. Like you could just say whatever you want, and there wasn't really moderation of, hey, this is a terrible racial slur. We're gonna like on Facebook or anywhere else because they are a private company. They are not required to adhere to First Amendment things. So you can't say whatever you want. You can't threaten people or anything like that. And so that was one of the things that the Twitter board had worked really hard on. And then Elon Musk was always critical of them censoring, people. Oh, well, this person said this and you kicked them off the platform. That's wrong. They should be able to say whatever they want. And so he came in and he essentially got rid of all the jobs. I mean, he cut like 75% of the workforce. And most of those jobs tended to be people who were working to make Twitter a safer place. And so a lot of people are leaving because and that day, I mean, it was the day that he took over, and it was pretty ugly on there. There was a lot of racial slurs being thrown around, like, yay, now I can say this thing again on Twitter. And I mean, that's a problem anyway. But a lot of people are leaving because they're like, no, I'm not giving any money to this guy who is allowing people to be harmed in this way. So
Okay. I don't know. I'm just wondering. I mean, I understand that we should not be saying terrible things about other people, but it seems to me that this is more of a political power play, like just because of who Elon Musk is and maybe how they see him, where he falls on the spectrum of politics. But is it because of his views based on that too, that maybe they're like, I mean, Twitter should be open-minded from both political parties or whatever political party you fall into. And we shouldn't be saying terrible things, but are we really like, is it because they're just not agreeing with him with some things that he agrees with in politics?
I don't think so. I think most of what I have seen, the people that are, no, I mean, I can't speak for every person.
Yeah.
The thing that I have seen the most is like one of the things that was guaranteed to Twitter employees, and it has been for the last 10 years, was you can work your job 100% of the time remote. You do not have to come into an office. It's in their contracts.
Yeah.
And he came in and said, you are now required to be in an office. And if you can't come into an office starting tomorrow, I'll accept your resignation. And, some of these people, like, they've never been to an office because they've only ever been promised remote work. And so there was a mass resignation of staff. And so a lot of people are upset with that he's treating his employees in that way. And then just the kind of the Wild West. It's totally uncensored. You can say whatever you want. I'm sure that there are people who are leaving because there are accounts that have been locked out or suspended that he is reinstating. And that's certainly a part of it for a portion of people. It has been, and so I guess if you're only on there for, sports and stuff like that, you might just be the same.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But it looks like there might be something more.
Yeah, but
going
it
on
sounds
there.
like a lot of those people are looking for a reason to get upset.
Yeah.
Like just don't follow that person. You don't have to follow them. It's so easy to block. I mean, I block so many things because I'm not a big social media guy, as most everybody knows. I mean, I am on Twitter because of the news and sports, and I like to know stuff and know it quick, and Twitter seems to be the fastest way to get that information sometimes. But just block those things, and I get that, there's people that are doing hate speech. There's hate speech everywhere. Like, I mean, I'm not for hate speech, obviously, but I mean, I think that's part of it. I did see a lot of people resigned, and here's the great, in my opinion, it has nothing to do with Twitter, but just the problem with America is we want a capitalistic society, and then we get upset when somebody does something capitalistic. You buy a company, you can do whatever you want. Like, you're the boss, you spent the money, nobody else is doing it. And so it's like, we want capitalism, we're pro-capitalism, fight the communists, all this stuff. I'm all for it. But then when somebody does something that proves what a true capitalism is, the rich get richer and they can do whatever they want. I mean, that's capitalism. And we're all stuck having to listen to it. That's it in a nutshell. And so it's kind of like, well, what did you expect was going to happen when a billionaire bought a company? He's going to make changes. He's going to do what he wants. And at the end of the day, if you don't like it, there's other places to work, Like, I mean, and I'm not trying to be cruel. That's just reality. Like, he bought it. So unless you can buy him out, then
No, I agree.
you got to kind of do what he says. I mean, that's capitalism. So,
Yeah. Well, so I want to ask this question because this pastor wrote an article on also on religionnews.com, and he titled it, it's an opinion piece, "The Twitter Exodus. As a Christian minister, I can no longer stay." And the article just talks about his reasons for leaving the platform. And one of the other things, Penny, just that as I was kind of going through this, he talks about one of his main reasons is the lack of oversight on what constitutes a verified account has changed. It used to be that you had to be of note and, like, oh, this is a legitimate place. And then he instituted, well, you can pay for your verification. And so anybody can be verified, which used to mean that
but
you
that's
were
just
a source.
the whole, like,
Yeah.
it's just all.
But the concern there is, well, this person is just some troll, but now they're verified and spreading false information.
But being verified, it's like, it's a straw man. It's like you're getting upset about something that doesn't even matter.
Well,
like, it only matters to the person because people will brag that they got verified.
Sure.
But like Penny's not on Twitter. She could care less if somebody's it doesn't matter.
I
kinda wanna
A
get
hill of
verified.
beans.
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
I mean, I agree that it's one of those things like, oh, who cares who's verified? But I think the bigger issue there is it has become like, being verified was like, oh, well, I can trust where this is coming from because this is a verified, like this person is who they say they are. This organization, this news service, whatever, they are who they actually say they are. Whereas now, like Kyle could go start, Kyle's Daily News.
Yeah, the prime example happened. Somebody created a Twitter account. They bought Twitter Blue, and their name, whoever creates insulin, I don't know the pharmacy name.
Lilly, Eli
Yeah.
Lilly.
Yeah, so they created a Twitter account and they skewed the Twitter handle just look a little bit different than Eli Lilly. And then they tweeted out with the blue check mark saying, "We are now giving away for free." And their stocks plummeted because you can buy an $8 check mark next to your name and then you can start
Only
spreading more.
$8?
Yeah, a
Just
month.
get verified.
I should be.
And so that's really the main issue with this blue check mark and blue Twitter that popped up was, I mean, it was chaos, and I was there for it. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was just pure entertainment. So
I mean, that's brilliant when you think about it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's also like, if you're, I mean, in my mind, if you're like that dumb to like not like look into that a little bit more, and all of a sudden I mean, and again, that just shows I don't know. We've put too much stock in social media.
I agree. But let me ask you this question, because this is not, so we're going to do a what does Jeremy think here? And this is not really about social media. Social media is kind of one facet of this question. But with that in mind, Jeremy, does there come a time when Christians should disengage from the world, from culture, or do we need to stay and be involved? So let's hear, what does Jeremy think?
What does Jeremy think?
So my first response would be, Jesus says that we are in the world, not of the world. Now, I wrestle with that in his language because we're in the world and we are of the world both, in my opinion. I understand what he's saying. He's painting a bigger picture of what we're called to. So that's what I'll talk about. I don't think Christians have to disengage from the world. I don't think it's healthy that we create our own culture. I think it's okay that sometimes we don't participate, and that's always been my thing with everything. And people can disagree with this. Don't like it, don't watch it. You don't have to make a big scene. You don't have to boycott it. If you don't like this product because of something, well, first of all, that's hypocritical in of itself, because I could find some product that everybody's using that it's somewhere down the line is some type of moral issue. So I think it's that we have to be careful with how we engage the world. I think the biggest thing is, I think this is the biggest problem I have with social media is people will get on a rant about something and they may be right. Like they may be right, but in the sake of being right, they've now said things that are going to turn people off, not just to the topic, but to Jesus because of how they went about approaching this. And so I think that's the part where we have to be careful. Well, I think what Jesus is trying to say is that we're, in the world, but not of the world, is that we don't respond in the same way that everybody else does. And so, I think that was with COVID was a big one. Obviously, there was political stuff, which I try not to talk too much into any of that stuff, and there's just people that are just saying things that are just mean and hateful and wrong and is a hate speech in some ways, And so I think that's just where we have to be really, really careful when we do engage in those ways. Is it Christ-like? Are we saying anything? And it's not even about being offensive. I don't want to get into that, but it's not even about being offensive. It's just about being smart with your words and realizing, and like I said, I've never understood ever, and this is just my take, ever why people want to get in arguments on social media. Like, just, it doesn't do anything. I mean, arguing with somebody, first of all, doesn't do anything. I mean, nobody's, I've never been able to sit down with a U of L fan and be like, well, the reason you should be a UK fan actually is, and give them all of the very logical reasons I've come up with. Like, nobody's ever been like, you know what, you're right. Nobody's ever been like, you know what, I was a Republican, but now I'm a Democrat. Like, it just, that world, that literally doesn't happen in any instance that I've ever experienced. And so, like, just engaging in that stuff most of the time doesn't do any good anyway. But if you're going to engage, just be smart about it. And then if there's stuff that's offensive or there's stuff that you don't like, don't participate in it. I think that one of the problems we have in the church has always been my opinion is when we choose to follow Christ, we're signing up for something. Literally, we're choosing that we want to be in line with this because we believe this is the best way that God has designed for us to live our lives. Now, we can still believe that that's the best thing for the whole world because that's what we believe. But at the end of the day, they haven't signed up for that, and so I can't get mad at you because you haven't aligned yourself with the moral values that, even though I believe they're the better ones, but does that make sense? That's not something that you yourself have said. And so for me to get mad at you is a silly thing, and for me to think that I can get mad at you because I'm right or because of my understanding of the world and belittle that person or make them feel stupid, and then they're one going to be on my side, like that's just, nobody works like that. I mean, those are my initial thoughts. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts about that. I knew that we were going to talk about this, but I didn't really prepare a lot. But I just wanted to, off the cuff, just say, like, I just don't understand it. If we're going to engage the world, we have to be smart about it. And I don't think it's healthy that we completely disengage. I don't think that helps us. I don't think it helps the world. Jesus says, "We're the light of the world. We're the salt of the world." Light and salt don't do any good if it sits in a cupboard somewhere, and away from everything else. It doesn't do what it's made for. So,
What about you, Kyle? Thoughts?
I mean, the way I look at it is, if you don't want to be on Twitter, cool.
yeah,
Well, that's great. If you want to completely like neglect culture and not, sure, do your thing. Like, first of all, I can't control what you do, but also at the same time, some people find that that's what's best for them. Maybe that's the best way they need to build themselves up, and those kind of things. So it's just like, cool. That means I don't have to now. If you don't want to watch Star Wars because you think of whatever, I'll watch it then. I'll make sure I'm the one doing it, and I'll have conversations with people about it. So that's the way I look at it. But, it's one of those things. A monastic, living as a monk or completely distancing yourself. I'm always like, I mean, that can't be fun, Like, I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love God, but like, you just pray all day. Like, sorry.
Hold on. That's the quote of the day. Don't get me wrong. I love God.
Yeah.
but
Yeah. But, there's people that's what they need to do. And I'm just like,
But I think the other side of that too, I think this might be a bigger talking point, is there's a place for monks in this
Yeah.
world, because some of the best writings that we have come from monks, some of the best practices. That's not what I've been called to.
Yeah.
And I think that might be even the bigger thing we come into with this, is it's this comparing, contrasting thing with us to the world and us even to each other. And, like, that's what they've been called to. That's their life. That's their life they've chosen. Okay. Just because it's not the way that I see the world or the way that I think, and I think that's part of it too. And anybody that knows me, like, I like to be right, and I think I am right pretty much all the time, but I don't need to force that on you. Like, I don't need to do that, and so I will talk about it,
Mhm.
but I don't think I need to force my opinions on you. And I don't necessarily need you to try to convince me that you're right either. And I think that that's where we get into a lot of trouble, um, not only just with Christians in the world, but even in Christian world. I mean, I don't know. We're not having healthy conversations. I think that's the biggest point. We're just not having healthy dialogue across the board.
Yeah, this is a very broad topic.
Yeah.
Like, to discuss. So the bigger question for me is, why is this just about Christians? I mean, there's other religious groups and other groups of people and cultures that have different values and see things differently in the world. But why is this always about Christians in America? I mean, I think that's the bigger question.
Well, and I think to answer that, and not to be like cynical, but I mean, around the world, a lot of those groups, they just kill each other. I mean, that's like, you go Hindus in India. I mean, they're killing other religious people that don't agree with them, which is supposed to be a peaceful religion, but they're actually killing people. I think in America, where it becomes the central point, because I do think most of the world looks to us to see how we're going to respond to things, and they look to us for practices. When you go to other places in the world, like, I always just want to ask them, like, what do you think about America? And not like to be judgmental, but what do you actually know about America? And I think that they're looking to us. So I think that's why it becomes a center point of conversation. And then I think the other point is, because Christianity is, to this date, still the largest religion in the world. I think they're looking to us to see how we respond to things. Of all the religions, I mean, we're the one that, I mean, for lack of it, we're the ones that we're right. I mean, that's our viewpoint of things. We're right, you're wrong. And I think that causes a lot of tensions. So yeah, there are parts of the world where literally the religious people are killing each other, hurting each other. But then, there are some religious groups that can be together because at the end of the day, they don't necessarily say like I'm right and you're wrong. Does that kind of make
Yeah,
sense?
but I'm saying in America in
Yeah.
general, like I don't feel like if a Muslim were to say, well, this is how I view things, this is how I see things, I'm disengaging from that particular part of the culture. Like I feel like we have a bigger target on our backs.
Well, the Muslims have a big target on their back right now because of the World Cup. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of controversy right now because I mean I think I know you're not a big soccer person, but like
Yeah.
it's a big deal right
Yeah.
now, and there's a lot of protesting going on, and they're even worried about the volatile nature of some of it
Mhm.
because um Qatar is it's a Muslim country, and so like they're not, and this is whatever, but they're not allowed alcohol sales.
Mm.
There were a lot of the captains of teams that wanted to wear like bands that said "One Love" on them to support like the LGBTQ community because they're persecuted and like not just like persecuted, like
Yeah.
but they're harshly persecuted in that part of the world. And so like the FIFA was like, if you do this, you're a yellow card as soon as you walk on the field, any type of thing like that. And so I mean, there is actually a lot of controversy right now in the Muslim world because of the World Cup, which is it sounds
That's
silly, but
interesting.
yeah,
No, it is very
yeah.
interesting.
And there's a lot of protests going on right now because of it.
Yeah, there are Iranian players in the first match of the World Cup. They didn't sing the national anthem in support of all the other issues going on in Iran. And there's so many other little protests that are popping up.
And they're
as you're
wearing
watching it.
black
Yeah.
pullovers so they don't have to show their team's colors.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask
Or
you
the nation's
this
colors.
then. So, in particular, celebrities that are, let's say, more conservative or Christian, Christians within that are celebrities, like whatever.
Yeah.
Do you feel that they should disengage more than
I mean, my personal feelings is most celebrities should just shut up.
Right.
And I know I'm not trying to get into the whole like LeBron basketball should just dribble, not the LeBron James should just dribble basketball. Like I'm not saying anything like that. Like a couple years, that was a big deal on Twitter a couple years ago. But no, what I'm saying is like I do think that there are really smart, intelligent people that see the world differently and actually are having healthy dialogue. We don't ever talk about those people. The celebrities, musicians, and I'm not saying they shouldn't have an opinion because they have as much right to have an opinion as I have an opinion about the world. It's the same thing with we're putting too much stock in that. I mean, and I know this is a big broad, like the fact that influencers exist in this world is just insane to me. Like that there's people that's their job and it's on social media to influence people, not only with products, but also with ideas and ideologies and all that stuff. But there are people that I think that are wanting to have healthy dialogue about some of this stuff, but that doesn't sell, and it doesn't social media would be boring for a lot of people if there wasn't all the, I mean, this guy that got off social media, I didn't read the article. If I want to get ticked off, I can get on Twitter or Facebook and get ticked off in about 10 seconds. Like I can find stuff that's going to just go all throughout me. And I think that's what a lot of people get on there for, and it sells and it keep people going back. And I don't totally understand that, but I think that's a big part of it. And I think that's the celebrity culture feeds a lot of that and it sells because, and I don't want to get into the Kanye West stuff, but like Kanye West, as far as like Twitter's concerned, is as popular as he's ever been. Like you search his name because of all the crazy stuff he's been saying, like, he's obviously lost a lot of like deals and stuff like that. But as far as his popularity, I don't mean necessarily good popularity, but I mean people are constantly right now wanting to figure out what he's saying and what's going on with him. And I mean the fact that we look to people like that, to get our opinions is to me is a little bit scary.
Yeah, I mean, celebrity culture in of itself is just so ridiculous. I mean, and that's the same thing as influencer culture is we're looking to these people for advice instead of like experts in topics. I don't know. That's just me. That's my 2 cents on celebrity culture. It baffles me.
So I mean, we went way around there, and I don't even know if we really solved anything. But I mean, but as far as
I think the world's a better place now
Yeah,
than it was before the conversation.
I think the whole disengaging thing. I think it's just I don't think it's healthy to always disengage. You can't get away from it.
Right.
I think that's the bigger thing. You can't get away from it completely, and and then the other side of it is if we're going to engage, do it in a healthy way. And I think that's probably the bigger thing, regardless of Christianity here in America, other religions in the world. It's just all comes down to healthy dialogue. And there just doesn't seem to be a lot of that going on. I think there are people that want to have healthy dialogue. It's just that, if you go into a conversation with somebody and your agenda is, I'm going to prove to you that I'm right. I mean, you might as well not have the conversation. It's already over at
I
that
feel like
point.
that's everybody
Yeah.
now. So,
But that's what I'm saying. That's social. That's half of social media, if
Right.
not more of
Yeah.
it. You know. So I think you just got to use judgment. That's part of the reason I gave up Facebook is because, and Twitter. That's why I'm very selective on what I do with Twitter. On Facebook, I mean, I don't need to make posts. Nobody, even on Twitter, people are gonna be surprised because they search it. I don't think I've made more than 3 posts in the 10 years I've been on Twitter. I go to Twitter for information. I don't necessarily need you to hear what I have to say about the world. But I think you just got to be careful with it and just understand it's a tool, but it's also a very dangerous thing at the same time.
we're going to get you verified.
Yeah.
It's going to be
They're
amazing.
going to be like, this is the first guy verified with only 3 tweets over 10 years. I think my last tweet is a picture of my daughter from like 2006. So, yeah, I don't even know. So, there you go.
All right. Well, we got some things to tell you about that's happening here at Journey or that has happened here at Journey. Oh, that was what does Jeremy think?
That's what Jeremy thought.
They're going to be like, we're more confused than when you started talking.
Yeah. It's like that thing from Billy Madison. You know, everybody here is now dumber.
Yeah.
I award you no points. May God have mercy on your soul. No, I thought it was a good conversation. I really do. Because I do think that that's a question that a lot of people wrestle with. Like, oh, well, can I stay and make a positive impact? So anyway, so we had some exciting generosity happen here at Journey. All of you Journey people, you chipped in, you helped us put some food bags together, and we were able to feed 75 families their Thanksgiving meal. Provided that to them, full turkey
That's awesome.
included. And so we just want to thank you for that. And we are really grateful for you and for your generosity. We got an event coming up, Lights Under Louisville. That is Kyle's event. So I'm going to let him tell you about it.
Yeah, Lights on Louisville. It's going to be a great time. We are taking a bus ride through the Mega Cavern where they will have a 30-minute drive-through light display. Super excited about it. It is $15 a student, or if you want to come as a family, I highly encourage you to do that because I love driving around looking at Christmas lights with my family, and we want to invite you to that as well. And that is $40 for the whole entire family. You get a meal, obviously you get your ticket, and you get a Journey Students Santa hat. That is also something that is worth wearing.
Fun swag. And we've got a not so Grinchmas Christmas this year. So Grinchmas is rolled into this. It's all the different holiday movies. Tickets are going on. I mean, it's not for sale. It's a free event, but tickets are available starting on Black Friday. The event is December 8th through the 10th. And if you are a Journey person, we really need your help. We need lots and lots and lots of volunteers to make this event happen to the best of its ability. So if you're interested in volunteering, whether you're an adult, whether you're a kid, whether you're a teenager, we could use you. Just go to the Journey app and you can sign up to help there, or you can reach out to Kira and she will get you plugged in. We would like to go ahead and announce our Christmas Eve service times. We have gotten those nailed down. We are off.
Do we?
I think so.
We spent a 2-hour meeting yesterday. People don't understand how serious we take these things. Like 2 hours just trying to figure out Christmas service.
And probably,
And we still didn't get it right,
Yeah.
probably.
the handful of people are probably be like, I could have come in and done that in 2 minutes. This could have been an email. So we are offering 3 services: Friday the 23rd at 7 p.m., and then Saturday morning the 24th at 11 a.m., and then Saturday evening at 9 p.m. Childcare will be provided at all of those services. That does mean that we won't have any live services on Sunday morning, December 25th. We'll have something online for you, just a little thing, our way of saying Merry Christmas. But those 3 service times, once again, are Friday the 23rd at 7 and December 24th at 11 a.m. and 9 p.m. Anybody have anything else they would like to tell people what's happening?
No, I think
good.
we're good. We just need America to pull out at least. We've seen them get out of their group.
Yeah,
that's
we
all.
need to
That's
get out of
all.
the group. But once again, if they get out of the group, we probably keep our coach, and I'm
Yeah.
not a fan of that.
Well, I just want to get out of the group.
So do I.
Most people are like, we don't care. You should care. It's the most
What are you
popular sport
talking
in the world.
about right
The
now?
World
Sports,
Cup.
soccer.
You didn't
The
even mention
World
that.
Cup.
World Cup.
I said America get out of their group.
No,
that should
no one knows.
instantly think World Cup.
Okay,
It's the biggest thing in the world.
Go soccer.
Like people don't.
Like 6 billion people watch this.
Yeah, like we think
Not
football. Like we think
Me.
I know.
football's big, but you
Is
don't
it-
know how big soccer actually is in the world.
Isn't
It's
that just
insane.
the arrogance of America, though?
Yeah.
Like they were like, this is the biggest thing in the world, and most Americans are like, not for me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care.
All right. Well, go root for your country of choice in the World Cup. If it's not America, get out or something like that. I don't know. Is that the right thing to
They're
say?
not going to win, but
Oh,
so
okay.
you got to
Yeah.
find another team.
All
but
right, go find another team.
Yeah.
Can't pick Argentina now, though.
they're going to
I
win.
mean, you
yeah.
might, but
Brazil. What about Brazil?
yeah, Brazil's
Brazil's good.
Brazil and Argentina are basically the favorites.
I know nothing about soccer. I wish I did, but I don't. Anyway, that is our show for today. We hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. We'll be back with you in a couple of weeks, but we are going to conclude our episode with a group singing of Turkey in the Straw.
Absolutely not.
Okay,
I don't even know
everybody
if
ready?
that's a song?
I don't even know
One,
this song.
2, 1, 2, 3, 4.